as I said, you don't need to go back very far to see how quickly the pace of change has been over the last few years. Certainly, from my personal experience, I rejoined the actuarial field about 4 years ago, having had an 8-year gap where I wasn't working in it, and the pensions landscape over that period dramatically changed, and with it came quite a lot of innovation. I don't think that's going to slow up. I think we're still going to see that change continue to keep pace going forward. So, for example, insurance de-risking is going to continue to be a really big area. It's already constantly evolving, and I don't see any signs of that abating, in the next decade. I also think we've had a recent raft of new legislation, and that's still bedding in, so we'll see some more development in that area. There's also more to come. We've heard about the second-hand annuity market, the recently announced lifetime ISAs, which have the potential to become some form of pensions ISA if pensions do get reformed. And let's not forget, we've got the Brexit referendum on the horizon as well. So who knows what opportunities that's going to bring, depending on where the results land. So for me, I think there's lots and lots of potential opportunities for actuaries to create and help, solve new problems for clients as well over the period. So lots to do. Well, I think it has already changed, and I think it will continue to change. As actuaries, I think we need to kind of broaden and widen our skill sets. Integrated risk management has got more focus now, and it will continue to do so. So that means for us, we need to be able to have an ability to understand the bigger picture. Being able to explain risk in the wider context. We'll need to be able to model risk better, explain it better, and actually have a better understanding of how the pension scheme interacts with the employer's position and its covenant. Good communication skills and relationship management skills have always been important, but I think they're even more vital nowadays. Looking into specific skills, de-risking and having expertise in that area will be particularly important as that market area expands and grows. So for many actuaries, whilst they'll have the fundamental underlying skills in that de-risking area, it's the wider skill sets, being able to negotiate on contracts, for example, or being able to engage with member communications and drafting letters to members, etc. Those kind of things, I think we will see increasing requirements for, really. For me personally, actually, given the pace of change, one of the things I place quite a lot of importance on is the ability of an individual to actually be able to adapt and be flexible to change, because we are going to see lots of it going forward as well, I think with many DB schemes close to future accrual, actually the focus is now shifting to what the ultimate end game is, and whether that be transferring all the liabilities to an insurer or potentially making sure the scheme is self-sufficient and able to pay all the benefits. What it's going to require as pensions actuaries to be able to work with trustees and sponsoring employers to develop a strategy to deliver that long-term goal and understand what options they're going to take and when they're going to take them. Now, there's obviously lots of options available for actuaries, for schemes, sorry, so the actuary's role is to help them work out what are the most appropriate actions for them to take and do that in a measured way that's ultimately going to get there. So I think we'll see actuaries become much more strategic. Absolutely, I think that if you take one step back from that, some of the fundamental skills that you learn as an actuary, are able to transfer across not just geographical locations but across industries as well. Speaking for myself, I actually moved into industry and I was able to use a lot of the skills that I'd learned as an actuary directly in my role: spreadsheet skills, report writing skills, the ability to manage complex projects, for example. Coming back in, I'm now using those skills again in a more senior role. But focusing on the kind of the geographical transferability, a lot of the actual mathematical concepts don't change when you cross borders. What does change is the type and style of benefits that are the local custom and practice, the legislation and the guidance that revolves around them. So for an actuary transferring, yes, there's a lot of upskilling to be done, but it's not an insurmountable problem. And actually, when you come from a different regime, you bring a lot to the table because you bring your expertise of that other regime to a new market as well. I think there are a variety of reasons. I think some are down to pension actuaries innovating and creating solutions, but I think some of them are simply just due to external factors. So generally speaking, the constant change in legislation and the ever increasing amounts of it have had a big part to play. as have the fact that scheme sizes have just continued to grow in size as schemes have matured. But obviously, bigger schemes mean bigger risks, and particularly in the current economic market conditions, and bigger risks ultimately require more management. So I think actuaries have responded to that by creating and improving their technology around modelling and the solutions that they do offer clients, and that has created more demand for the expertise in that area. And I think generally as an industry we've become better at delivering better information to the people that do make decisions. So it's wider than just the actuarial numbers now. We talk about the costs and the impact on the wider business, for example, how to engage with your employees around the pensions issues. So I do see that that's how our role has grown over time. I'm not sure stigma is the right word. I do believe that there's a perception that perhaps other fields like insurance consulting or investment consulting are a bit more sexy. But I think for those of us already working in pensions, we do realise that there is a huge variety of options available. So from my perspective, we do see, we continue to see a lot of high quality calibre candidates, and I think that's partially because we are able to offer them, great opportunities and diverse roles. For example, our market, the option to be able to work on a multi-billion-pound deal with our market-leading de-risking practice is actually something that is quite a big attraction for people. I would say at the graduate level, whilst we do recruit in the other actuarial departments as well, we haven't really had any significant drop-off in either the number of people applying or the quality of the candidates applying. So overall, I don't think we've seen much of a change. I think pensions is a really diverse area nowadays, and it's getting increasingly difficult to be an expert in everything. So I think what we will see, as well as people focusing on the traditional scheme actuary role, for example, we'll see people moving into kind of specialised niche areas more and more, whether that be, like I've mentioned, insurance kind of transactions, or perhaps something a bit more technical like pensions taxation and helping senior executives solve their taxation issues. We've already talked about the fact that there's going to be lots of change in the market, and with that will come new opportunities for actuaries developing their careers, things like the second-hand annuity market, which we've mentioned. But Brexit potentially brings with it some new opportunities as well. New European legislation actually has a formal definition of a risk manager role for pension schemes. Now, that might be something that's quite well suited to pensions actuaries. We've yet to see actually what it means in practice and how that will develop, but potentially it's an area that we might see actuaries moving further into. I do think that with a wide variety of options available, we will see actuaries finding and developing their careers to suit their own preferences and skill sets as well. Well, we currently have 7 teams split across our London and Manchester offices. Each team has a mix of analysts, associate consultants, consultants, and whilst the teams do work together, we also do a lot of cross-team working as well as cross-office working as well. The benefit of using that matrix approach is that more junior team members do get to work with a variety of LCP partners and get to learn different ways of working, which is obviously, from an individual development point of view, really beneficial. We also try to encourage people to have a broad mix of trustee and corporate work so they understand the wider pensions picture. So as individuals typically progress, they might find areas of specialty which they really kind of want to get involved in, and we'll help support that where possible. We also do provide quite a lot of opportunities to work with other teams in different fields as well. So for example, I'm currently working on a couple of big projects with our DC teams, and a couple of my colleagues are also working with our general insurance department on joint pensions Insolvency 2 projects as well. So they do provide opportunities to broaden your roles. One of the other things we've just recently launched is an initiative called LCP Entrepreneurs. And this is something that's open to the whole business to apply for, and those taking part are basically given some time out of their kind of usual daily working routines to get together, explore new ideas, and essentially innovate new things. And it's not restricted to pensions, it's anything which we think our skill set would be useful for. So for people that are and are interested in thinking out of the box, actually it is a really interesting project to be involved in. So I'm quite looking forward actually to seeing the outcome of the first programme. We do recruit both directly and using agencies, and obviously both do have their pros and cons. I think typically when we receive applications directly, they're usually because someone's met somebody from LCP, potentially at a tutorial or for example, something like that. Obviously, using agencies does help us to widen our pool of candidates for a particular role. Now, we are really clear on the values that are important to us as a business, and so which form the basis of the way we provide our advice to our clients. So it's really critical that when we're working with an agent, they understand our culture at LCP and exactly what we're looking for, so that they can put forward the right candidate who's got the right skills, qualifications and experience. I think it's also much easier for agencies to be able to talk to potential candidates about a role when they understand a bit more about us. That's why we like working with Oliver James Associates, who do have quite similar values to us, because we can take a collaborative approach to ultimately end up with the right candidate for the role. I think it certainly has changed. Just looking at, from my perspective, and my team down in Winchester, actually more than half of the team are made up, across the analyst, associate consultants, are actually made up of females. So whilst yes, there are still many males working in the industry, and you typically tend to see that a lot on trustee boards, etc. Actually, the consulting firms do have lots of females working for them, and they have a great skill sets, great client relationship management skills, which is really important.